15 years, MGOC Spares and Accessories have offered a power steering kit for MGBs, MGCs, V8 models and also RV8s. In that time, over 800 kits have been fitted onto members' MGs, and they've proved very, very popular indeed. We'd like to show you what's incorporated in this by fitting one in our own workshop on this green MGB Roadster. So what we're hoping to show is that by fitting the power steering kit, we'll keep the whole of the road feel absolutely intact as we would like to see it, but also that when it comes to parking, it will be the easiest thing in the world to do. Alex, one of our lead technicians, is going to fit it on and explain the various stages in fitting the kit to your car.
I'm Alex from the MGOC Club Workshop. I'm going to show you basically how to fit a power assisted steering kit to this front bumper MGB Roadster. We'll break it down into two parts. The first stage is fitting the rack, and the second stage is to fit the hydraulic pump and pipe work. So the first job we're going to do is take the steering rack out, starting with the column bolt. Disconnected the universal joint at the top of the steering column. Took out 4 rack mounts and disconnected the tripod ends and the steering rack slide out now. So now we're ready to mount the jig for the new rack onto the cross member. We'll bolt this onto the original steering column mount, and then we can bolt the new rack mounting to the jig and mark where we've got to clean up to weld it onto the cross member. So now we've got the steering rack removed and we've got the jig mounted to the original steering column mounts. We can now offer up the new mount to the jig, just to mock it up so we can find out exactly where to clean up the cross member so that we can weld it in place. So we've got the first part of the new mounting bolted onto the jig. We just want to mark roughly on the cross member where we've got to clean it up so that we can weld it on. We'll clean this all back to bare metal, take this off, clean it up, and then we can put it all back together and weld it back on. We've got our cross member cleaned up now, and we're just going to tack in the new steering rack mount just on a few points, get it into position, then we can take the jig off, mount the rack and check for clearance, etc. before we weld it up fully. We've got 3 of the brackets tacked in just to mock the rack mounting into place to start with, each welded on with 3 little points there. This 4th one is slightly longer, just to make up for this contour of the cross member there, so that one there goes at the end. Now we've got the steering rack mounts tacked into place, we can cut the original mounts off. We've got to cut these off to allow clearance for the new steering rack. the old rack mounts cut off. Going to put the column in before we lock the new steering rack into position. So now we're going to connect the new column to the new rack. Fitted the rack. We're happy that there's no problems with clearance. We're just going to take it off now, and we can fully weld our rack mounted into place, clean up the cross member, paint it, and then refit the steering rack. So now we've got the rack finally fitted, the jigs all welded into place and painted. We've checked for clearance with the column, so that's that first stage done. Now we'll move on to fitting the power steering pump itself, the alternator pulley that drives it, and the associated pipework. So now we're going to replace the alternator pulley with the one that comes in the kit. This is kind of how it's going to look in the car. The power steering pump brackets mount on the same bolts as the top alternator mounting. So the alternator and pumper are mounted using the top alternator bolts. They're all pulled up tight just so we can bring everything into alignment. What we've got to check now is that all the pulleys line up as they should do. They can be spaced out with washers if they're not quite in line with each other. So we need to check the power steering pulleys against each other, and the new alternator pulley, we've got to make sure that lines up with the original water pump pulley. The next little job we're going to do is mount the reservoir bracket. We're going to mount it on these two studs here which hold the steering column inside. So we're going to take this off, mark the holes on the bracket, drill them and then put it all back together. Now we're going to fit the pipe work. There's 3 different pipes. There's the high pressure one, which goes from the pump to the rack. This slides in the rack. The rack return pipe, which goes from the rack to the reservoir. And the pump feed pipe, which comes from the reservoir and feeds the pump. Okay, so now we've fitted our power steering kit according to the instructions. We've set the tracking, we've started the engine and checked for leaks, and now we're on road test. And it feels good. The system provides extra assistance at low speeds when you need it for parking, etc., and reduces the assistance at high speed. This helps keep the authentic classic feel without the car feeling wishy-washy.